All right, this is the penultimate video, which means we have this one and then one more, and that's it. I'm going to combine scenes 1 and 2 because they're really short for Act 5. So let's jump in. In scene 1, we're in Mantua in a street. So we're with Romeo, and his servant shows up, Balthazar, and he has some news. I'm going to be really vague here because we don't want to give too much away. But Romeo's servant Balthazar informs Romeo of some bad news from Verona. You can imagine what that is. And then Romeo reacts to the bad news and visits an apothecary. An apothecary is basically a drugstore. So you can imagine what he's getting there. So he makes a purchase, and that's it. And then in scene 2, we jump over to Friar Lawrence's cell. Now remember, Friar Lawrence was supposed to send a letter to Balthazar to help Romeo understand the situation. So Romeo has no idea about the friar's crazy plan that has already been executed. It's already been done, right? So we have Friar John and Friar Lawrence. Friar John is a friend of Friar Lawrence's. He helps him out. And they have a conversation about how well Friar John was able to get Friar Lawrence's letter to Romeo. So Friar John was supposed to deliver Friar Lawrence's letter to, Balthazar, who was going to give it to Romeo. So you have way too many people in between, right? Anything can happen. But we'll find out what happens there. And of course, as soon as Friar Lawrence gets the news, he comes up with a plan because Friar Lawrence always has a plan. I feel like this is some kind of meme, but all right. So let's get to Act 5, Scene 1. All right, here we go. So it starts off with Romeo by himself. So I guess you'd call this a soliloquy. If I may trust the flattering truth of sleep, my dreams presage some joyful news at hand. My dreams have told me that there's some great news coming. I think you need to get your dreams checked out. My bosom's lord sits lightly in his throne, and all this day an unaccustomed spirit lifts me above the ground with cheerful thoughts. I dreamt my lady came and found me dead. Strange dream that gives a dead man leave to think. So somehow this is a cheerful thought, but he dreamt that that Juliet found him dead. That's interesting. Sure, that's not foreshadowing at all. And breathed such life with kisses in my lips that I revived and was an emperor. Okay, so maybe that's why he enjoyed the dream. It revived him because she kissed him. Okay, I hope that works out for you. But love's shadows are so rich in joy. Ah me, how sweet is love itself possessed, when but love's shadows are so rich in joy. So the shadows, the parts that are a little shady, that are darker, even those are great. Even when she finds me dead, she still kisses me and brings me back to life and turns him into an emperor. All right, so here comes Balthazar. He's in his riding boots, so he's been riding a pony. News from Verona. How now, Balthazar? Dost thou bring me letters from the friar, like the friar was supposed to send me letters? How doth my lady? Is my father well? How doth Juliet? You don't want to know. That I ask again, for nothing can be ill if she is well. Then she is well, and nothing can be ill. Her body sleeps in Capel's monument, and her immortal part with angels lives. So Balthazar is telling Romeo that Juliet is dead and is in the vault where she's being kept. So Balthazar must have seen her. He might have seen the funeral procession. He might have just been talking to someone and got the news, because I'm sure that news spread quick. Oh, here we go. I saw her laid low in her kindred's vault, and presently took post to tell you. So he saw them putting her body in the vault, and as soon as he saw that, he took off to let Romeo know. Oh, pardon me for bringing these ill news, since you did leave it for my office, sir. I mean, you put me in charge of giving you news. So this is the news. Is it Ian So? Then I deny you, stars. Well, that's interesting. Stars, fate. I deny you. Uh, I'm not going to follow what fate has in store for me. But you've been doing that the whole play. And I guess at this point, I mean, this is what fate had in store for you. And you knew it because you dreamt it before. But I guess at this point, you just assume that fate has something else in store for you. And so now you're saying, no, I don't take this other route that, you're taking me on, that she's dead. It's not happening, right? Thou knowest my lodging. Get me ink and paper and hire post horses. I will hence tonight. I'm going to write a letter. You might be able to guess who he's writing a letter to and what about. Post horses, of course, are people that deliver the mail. Balthazar says, I do beseech you, sir, have patience. Your looks are pale and wild and do import some misadventure. Like, hey, maybe you should take a breath and relax. You look like you're about to do something crazy. Tush, thou art deceived. Leave me and do the thing I bid you do. Hast thou no letters from the friar? No, my good lord. No matter. Get thee gone and hire those horses. I'll be with thee straight. Okay, so what's his plan? Well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight. So he thinks Juliet's dead, so he's going to go with her or to her and kill himself. Okay. Little does he know that she's going to wake up. So is he going to get there before she wakes up or after? Let's see for means. Meaning, how am I going to kill myself? O mischief, thou art swift to enter in the thoughts of desperate men. I do remember an apothecary, and hereabout he dwells, which late I noted in tattered weeds with overwhelming brows, calling of simples. So I remember there was an apothecary, a pharmacy, essentially, someone who sells potions and that kind of stuff. But it was just in ruins. Like the place was not in good shape. It's very poor and broken down, and meager were his looks. Sharp misery had worn him to the bones. He's talking about the apothecary, the guy who's selling stuff. And in his needy shop a tortoise hung, an alligator stuffed in other skins of ill-shaped fishes, and about his shelves a beggarly account of empty boxes, green earthen pots, bladders and musty seeds, remnants of pack thread, and old cakes of roses were thinly scattered to make up a show. That's a nice description. Noting this penury, which is poverty, to myself I said, and if a man did need poison now, whose sale is present death in Mantua, here lives a caitiff wretch would sell it him. That's an interesting conclusion to draw. So you see a guy who's selling drugs, and he's so desperate and poor that your first thought is, if I ever needed poison that's illegal, like something that's totally illegal, I bet he would be poor enough and desperate enough for money to give it to me or to sell it to me. Why are you thinking about that? Oh, this same thought did but forerun my need. I thought about it before I actually needed it, but now I need it, so great, let's do it. And this same needy man must sell it me. As I remember, this should be his house. He's like walking around. He's like, oh, here I am. There it is. Being holiday, the beggar's shop is shut. What ho, apothecary? The apothecary shows up. Who calls so loud? Come hither, man. I see thou art poor. That's a interesting way to greet someone. Hey, what's up? You're poor. I noticed you're poor. And then he offers him money. And he says, hold, there's 40 ducats. Let me have a dram of poison, such soon speeding gear as will disperse itself through all the veins, that the life-weary taker may fall dead, and that the trunk may discharge of breath as violently as hasty powder fired doth hurry from the fatal cannon's womb. I'd like some poison that would destroy me as fast as standing in front of a lit cannon would, someone who shot a cannon at me. And Apothecary says, such mortal drugs I have, but Mantua's law is death to any he that utters them. I can't even talk about them. Romeo says, art thou so bare and full of wretchedness, and fearest to die? Famine is in thy cheeks, need and oppression starveth in thy eyes, contempt and beggary hangs upon thy back. The world is not thy friend, nor the world's law. The world affords no law to make thee rich. Then be not poor, but break it and take this. And he offers him the money. Um, that's interesting. He says, the world is not thy friend, nor the world's a law. The world affords no law to make thee rich. Um, some people would say that this is true today, that the way the laws are written are advantageous to corporations and rich people, and and they make it very difficult for someone who's poor to make money, unless you're a YouTuber. Um, Shakespeare's writing about this over 500 years ago, right? So maybe things haven't changed much, but okay. I mean, if you believe that, some people don't. A lot of rich people think that the laws are totally fair. Anyway, uh, the apothecary says, my poverty, but my will consents. So I'm not agreeing to this, but my poverty is like, because I'm so poor and so desperate for money. Okay, right. And again, I think that's, why do people get into a life of crime? Some people, it's because they're so desperate for money, so they do things that are illegal. Not justifying it, not saying you should, but I just find it interesting that Shakespeare was writing about this 500 years ago, saying that, wow, things haven't changed much, right? uh, Romeo says, well, I pay thy poverty, not thy will. I'm not paying your conscience, I'm paying your poverty. So the apothecary gives him the poison. So now we know how Romeo is going to end his life. And he says, put this in any liquid thing you will and drink it off. And if you had the strength of 20 men, it would dispatch you straight. Doesn't matter how strong you are, it's going to kill you immediately. And Romeo hands him the money. And one more social commentary. He says, there is thy gold, worse poison to men's souls, doing more murder in this lonesome world than these poor compounds that thou mayest not sell. I sell thee poison, thou hast sold me none. Farewell, buy food and get thyself in flesh. So Romeo is saying, and Shakespeare is saying that, this this money that I'm giving you is more poisonous than this poison. Um, it does more harm, right? Like this poison is actually doing something good. Now that's debatable, but this money, this greed that it creates, this need, and if you don't have it, then you know how awful it is for you. All of that is created by society, and that's worse than this poison that will actually do some good. Interesting ideas, right? Whether you agree or disagree. Okay, so the apothecary exits, and Romeo walks off the stage and says, come, cordial, and not poison, go with me. This isn't poison, this is cordial. To Juliet's grave, for there I must use thee. So we know where he's going. All right, so then that brings us to scene 2. Enter Friar John. He's visiting Friar Lawrence at Friar Lawrence's cell, and he says, holy Franciscan friar, brother Ho. And Friar Lawrence enters. The same should be the voice of Friar John. Welcome from Mantua. What says Romeo? Or if his mind be writ, give me his letter. What? So you delivered the letter, right? Right. uh, did Romeo give you a letter to give me? What did he say? Yeah, about that. Going to find a barefoot brother out, one of our order, to associate me, here in this city, visiting the sick, and finding him the searchers of the town, suspecting that we both were in a house where the infectious pestilence did reign, sealed up the doors, and would not let us forth, so that my speed to Mantua there was stayed. Okay, did anybody catch that? Um, So first, he was hanging out with somebody else, a barefoot brother, so another monk or another priest, one of our order, right? One of the same group of priests. And together they went to visit the sick, because that's what the priest did back then. And he said, hey, you want to go? I'm off to visit the sick. You want to come with me? He says, sure. I don't have an important letter to deliver right now. Why not? So they go into the city where the infectious pestilence did reign. Anyone? Otherwise known as the Black Plague. And this is very timely. What they used to do is they used to quarantine people and prevent them from leaving. They had to sit around until they either died or got better. And the priests would go and visit them, as a service, right? Because they were all alone. And while they were there, the city or the police made a decision to seal or quarantine. Like, hey, we think that all these sick people here have the Black Plague, so nobody's allowed to leave. So here's Friar John that's supposed to be delivering a letter to, Romeo or Balthazar, and he's stuck there. He couldn't deliver the letter. Friar Lawrence says, well, who bear my letter then to Romeo? I cannot send it. Here it is again. He's like, yeah, it's right here. You want it? So he returns the letter. Nor get a messenger to bring it thee. So fearful were they of infection. So, I couldn't get a messenger to bring it back to you because they were so afraid of infection that they thought maybe the letter was infected. Okay. This is, too close to home right now. Unhappy fortune, my brotherhood. The letter was not nice, but full of charge. It was full of importance. There was a lot of really important things in there that Romeo needed to know, of dear import, and the neglecting it may do much danger. Friar John, go hence. Get me an iron crow, a crowbar, and bring it. They had crowbars in the 1500s, and bring it straight unto my cell. Yeah, I guess why not? Friar John says, brother, I'll go and bring it thee. And so Friar Lawrence comes up with a plan. He's good at that. Now must I to the monument alone. Within this 3 hours will fair Juliet wake. He's got 3 hours. Yeah, is Romeo going to beat him? She will beshrew me much that Romeo hath no notice of these accidents. But I will write again to Mantua and keep, she's going to be mad that Romeo doesn't know what's going on. But I'll write again and keep her at my cell till Romeo comes. So I'll show up there first and then bring her to my cell and then write to Romeo and tell him to come here. Yeah, okay. That seems reasonable. Poor living corpse closed in a dead man's tomb. Poor Juliet, who's, surrounded by dead people. Okay, so 2 really short scenes, but there's some significance here. First, Shakespeare brings up the idea of fate again. This has come up many, many, many times in the play. And this idea that, everything that Romeo has thought would happen has happened. The prologue says that these two are star-crossed lovers, that, fate is causing this. And Romeo continues to say that it is, even though it kind of seems like he's using it as an excuse to not take responsibility for his actions. However, now he has said, I defy you, stars. I'm going to go take actions in my hands. But yet what he's doing is exactly what fate predicted would happen, right? So, and Shakespeare brings it up because people knew so little about anything back in the day that they wondered if, something else was controlling everything. They had no idea. So that's, I think, why he brings it up. Of course, it's all moving us forward. It's all setting us up for the final scene. It's not enough that Romeo is just going to try to get there. Now he doesn't know the real story about Juliet. Now he has poison in his hand. It's raising the stakes. It's making us like, oh no, But also, it's tying everything together. Like now we know. We already knew that they were going to kill themselves. Now we know how it's going to happen, right? Like it's getting closer and closer and closer to that inevitable ending. In scene 4, if you want something done, do it yourself. Like so far, the Friars' plans, as crazy as they have actually been working more or less. And then something terrible comes up, and so he has to adjust. And then he comes up with a crazier plan. And then, I mean, so far, as crazy as his crazy plan is going, the potion worked. So, but at this point, he really should have delivered the letter himself. Like, why wouldn't you? That seems insane that he doesn't deliver it himself and take care of himself. But maybe he didn't have time, and I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it's a play. So, but it's certainly building suspense because, again, you're raising the stakes. Part of the plan's not going well. Now there's more problems. If you look at any film, big action sequence, ones that are really exciting, there's like some plan that's supposed to happen and then something goes wrong and then something goes wrong on top of that. And it just keeps escalating. Every time it looks like you have a way out, another problem arises. That's what Shakespeare is doing like 500 years ago, right, in his storytelling. So it's a good way to build suspense. All right, nothing left but the final scene. I'm so excited.